Circuit of the Americas is set to host the third race in the young history of the brand new GT America, powered by AWS Championship. And for the first time in series history, it will be a race in the rain. Hello, I'm Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. Amanda Busick braving the weather down in the pits. And it is just about time to go for the third round of the season, third race of the season, after a couple of races won by George Kurtz overall at Sonoma Raceway. About to turn three different classes of cars loose around this 3.426-mile, 20-turn Circuit of the America racetrack. And it'll be James Safronis from GMG Racing leading the field to the green in his series debut, and Calvin, his first race since undergoing major shoulder surgery going back to last year.
Yeah, great to see James back on the grid, the most experienced SRO World Challenge driver in the paddock, of course, and back with a Lamborghini Huracan, so that's new for him. And George Kurtz, coming off a sweep of the weekend, has got a little bit more competition here this weekend. And another standout has been Brendan Aribe with that McLaren. Sits on the front row here today, had a stellar run in the GT World Challenge race a little bit earlier, the 90-minute race earlier today. So he knows these conditions. He did have a big leg up on the competition.
That's a great point. Already a race winner in the Pro-Am class there. Very impressive indeed. And about to go from the second spot on the grid. The man of the weekend in this series at Sonoma Raceway was George Kurtz. He will be starting in third. Swept the weekend. Race 2, it was dominant. One from pole. That's about all there is to say about it. But a penalty at the start of race 1 put him to the back thanks to a drive-through, and he came all the way back up through the field and got the overall win. One of the most impressive performances we've seen out of George Kurtz in GT3 machinery in his young career in this level of racing.
Yeah, and I think it's just the confidence is building in George in this GT3 car. So he's got a couple of seasons now behind him, and he's got a great team. Got great cars. He knows these type of conditions. Did the Spa 24-hour race last year. He ran earlier today, but his part of the stint was pretty much dry, so he doesn't have the conditions. Actually, talking about Brendan, I'm kind of incorrect. He was in there and had a quick spin in these conditions, so he's really not run his car in these conditions as wet as it is right now.
Still probably has a leg up on the rest of the field that weren't in that GT World Challenge race. Should mention Charlie Luck will be starting fourth, but on the pole in the Masters division for GT3 cars. But we also have GT4 cars in the field. Sean Quinlan, incredibly impressive in qualifying to take the GT4 pole for Stephen Cameron Racing. He'll have Ross Schwest from Rintech Motorsports starting alongside there, with Thomas Surgent and Jason Bell starting third and fourth in that class. That is down in 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th in the overall running order. And then we got to talk about Scott Schmidt from TPC Racing running the lone GT2 spec car in this field, and it is the debut of the Lamborghini in GT2 trim.
Yeah, so that's going to be exciting to see how that fares. I mean, as we know from last year with the Sports Club America category, the GT3 machinery still seemed to have the upper hand in terms of the downforce, which is what you're really going to be looking for here this afternoon. Certainly the GT2 cars, a lot more horsepower, but being able to put that to work in these track conditions is not going to be easy this afternoon.
That's a good point, and like I said, we've not seen this GT2 spec Lamborghini in this series or in North America. It's effectively an upgrade of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo single-make car. There's a little kit that you can convert that car, and Schmidt evidently is using this as a chance to learn the track ahead of a Super Trofeo weekend. That is Aribe, who has spun on the formation lap, and there was specific discussion about this in the drivers' meeting. What is the protocol when you have a spin?
Well, he basically has to go to the back.
The question I have is that the back of GT3 or is that the back overall? We'll have to see how that is adjudicated, but that gives you an idea of just how difficult these conditions are. That was the car that was slotted to start on the outside of the front row.
Well, he's obviously trying to resume his grid position here, so we'll have to wait for clarification from the stewards on that one.
It seemed pretty clear, though, from the conversation in the drivers' meeting that we sat in on, that you are not allowed to get that position back. At least that's how I interpreted it, but I've been wrong before.
See what happens here. It's a replay. Just tries to give it a little bit of a burst of acceleration, just loses the rear end. These cars do have traction control systems, so he needs to ramp that up a little bit if you're going to try and do that. Trying to generate, I mean, we see drivers weaving around, and it's really a misnomer in terms of how much tire temperature you're really achieving by doing that. A lot more effective ways to really use the right foot on the gas pedal, left foot on the brake pedal, and try and generate temperature up through the brakes, through the hub, through the wheel itself, and into the carcass of the tire. It'll build the tire pressure and build the temperature a little bit more. But trying to weave around in these conditions, I don't think you're really going to achieve much. When you see cars weaving around these days, it's typically when we're going back to racing and maybe they got some pickup on the tires.
Well, good news for Arib is he is able to get back into that second spot, and maybe he did it at a certain point. I think there was a cutoff point on the track.
Yeah, which is right there, turn 12. But I thought if you did it on the formation lap, came to a stop or had a spin, that you had to go to the back.
Well, we'll get some clarification on that and pass that information along to you. But as it stands, Arib has made it back up into the second starting position. You see the Jason Daskelos Audi coming through the screen a moment ago. I saw that car undergoing some major work at the back of it. Looked like the transmission was out yesterday. So glad to see that that car is back up and running. It's that white Audi right there coming through the picture. Looks like the field starting to form up ahead of the start of this race. GT3, GT4 cars, even a GT2 car all mixed in, plus rain conditions. My goodness, buckle up. This is going to be wild. It is the third round of the GT America, powered by AWS season. Field out of turn 19. Lamborghini Urus safety car makes its way to the pit lane. And James Safronis, the KG veteran, starting on pole in the GMG Racing Lamborghini, the blue car to the right of the picture. Here they come out of the final corner. The green flag displayed a little bit further up this pit straight. Everyone in good alignment, and now they start to accelerate just a little bit. Green flag waves, and passing can commence. Looks like Jeff Burton on the attack here, very aggressive to the inside.
Yeah, tucks to the inside there. You can cross over that white line there that indicates where pit exit is. As long as no one's coming out of the pit, you have to give them right of way. Oh, quick spin there in the middle of the pack.
Jason Daskelos goes around.
So tempting when you're going side by side with someone to try and out-accelerate them and just exceed the threshold of the grip level there.
Good start from Safronis, able to get away, but
wide,
they're
looking for grip.
Exactly right. Arib closing in just that little bit. Then we've got Charlie Luck, I believe. No, Charlie's dropped back a couple of spots, so it's a different Porsche they're running in second, or third rather.
There's Kurtz running in the fourth position, the all-black livery CrowdStrike machine. Charlie Luck trying to put the pressure on as George settles in here a little bit.
Charlie had a great run at Sonoma. Could that be Kyle Washington in his GMG colors?
Yeah, it's the 32 machine. That is Kyle Washington, up from 8th on the grid already in the top three. Two spins there in unison coming off turn 11.
Kurtz and Luck, the two that have gone around, both able to resume, but right in front of the GT4 field.
It's just so hard to really be cognizant of what's going on around you in these conditions when you've gone for a spin, trying to find your way back.
Look at all that
in the right direction, yeah.
Luck having trouble getting back up to speed. It looked like that was his car just crawling along in the middle of the track. Jason Harward in the brightly colored Lamborghini right there. Trying to make up another spot here at the start. 26 car.
Thomas Sargent is having a really good run there in the McLaren.
Yeah, qualified third in GT4 and has got up around a couple of the GT3 runners, as we're seeing.
The McLaren is pretty well suited to these wet conditions. Probably electronic A's they got dialed in. We talk about it being a British mark, and
maybe a little experience.
Yes.
In conditions such as these. Still the opening lap of this 40-minute race. No pit stops here in GT America, powered by AWS. It is a single driver sprint format, much akin to the old days of Pirelli World Challenge.
And I think it's pretty cool with all of the different categories running together. Single driver just gives a lot of these drivers who are running in maybe Sprint X or in GT World Challenge another opportunity to get some seat time, be on the racetrack on the same weekend in similar conditions. It's become very popular.
Got an update on our leader, James Safronis, with Amanda.
Well, guys, one of the things I love, when GT America was announced last season, James Sofronis said that this was going to be a class that was going to see a lot of entrants come into it. Well, he's putting his money where his words are.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he was a buyer into the GT2 concept, which, again, this is the North American home for GT2 right now, just the single car, but we expect that to grow. And I think he's a firm believer in finding a place for the single driver format as well for a lot of his customers. That is his client base, trying to bring them up to speed, get them some experience racing in GT3 cars before making that step up to GT World Challenge America.
Impressed with Brendan Arib here in terms of he had a quick spin towards the end of his stint in the GT World Challenge race and had a spin on the formation lap. Yet he's hanging on to James Sofronis, so it certainly hasn't intimidated him in terms of, wow, I'm really getting outside of my zone here. He's staying on the loud pedal and keeping up with that Lamborghini in front of him.
This is George Kurtz in the pits.
Oh, broken little
yes.
left rear suspension. Had some contact with Charlie Lux. I'm not sure if that was coming off of that turn 11 incident, or is this a replay of it? Yeah. Just going to that left rear corner. You see it immediately there, towed in.
These are pretty stout cars, but you hit them just right, and the toe link is definitely a vulnerable spot just when that contact hits it at the wrong angle.
Yeah, pretty vulnerable and obviously not good because you got to do 70% race distance to get points, so just nowhere close to that.
But he did pick up a couple of wins to start the season, so if you can insulate yourself from a moment like this, that's the way to do it, and he did, going back to the season opener. Sofronis is falling back into the clutches of Brendan Arib here. That is really impressive. We talked about the spin that he had on the formation lap, and assuming he was indeed able to get back up to that second starting spot, he's got a lot of good things going for him, putting the pressure on the series veteran.
Yeah, just laid down the fastest lap of the race at 1:28.008, a couple of tenths quicker than James, so he is honing in on him a little bit. And that may change James's lines into some of these corners to defend, so he may even be compromised more in terms of his lap time.
This is the GT4 lead up for grabs, and it's Surgent making his way around CHOUEST. Harward in the Lamborghini, that's a GT3 car, so not fighting for a class position here, but definitely right in the middle of that fight. So give Surgent P1, and CHOUEST drops back into P2 and now has the GT3 car separating him from the class leader.
Jason Bella's having a nice run, running in third position in the GT4, and CAGNAZZI is having a nice run here too as well for Rentec. They're having a big day.
Brendan Arib, it looks like, will be getting a penalty drive-through, we understand, for an improper starting procedure. So that's what we were talking about. They did mention that at the meeting. If you have an issue on the formation lap, you can't just drive your way back up through the field, and I think that's what that penalty is going to be for.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I even laid out the possibility. You will say you have a spin and you do a quick loop, you don't lose any track position even. That means you just got to fall all the way back. And I was talking to Brian Till, who is the race director for GT4, and he said, yep, I'm straight to the back. So it's unfortunate, and it's going to be a big battle to try and fight his way through, but maybe good experience nonetheless.
Definitely has the pace in that car, and we've seen a driver come back from a drive-through penalty to win in this series, going back to the first race of the season. That's exactly what we saw from George Kurtz. And speaking of George, he's standing by, out of the car unfortunately, but with our Amanda Busick.
He is out of the car, and I'm pretty sure you're really ready to get to tomorrow. When you think of what happened there as you opened up the race, is there anything you could have done differently?
You know, I mean, it's start of the race and just guys all over the place, and you know, it's pretty wet out. We got hit in turn 11 and broke the toe link and didn't even make it through a lap, so pretty disappointing.
Thank you, George.
Coming off a frustrating race, he and Colin Brown earlier today finishing in the 10th position, only a solitary point, and came into that championship round second in points. He leads this one, and that points margin may be under attack by the end of this one, dependent on the result for his other competitors.
Arib has not yet made his way down the pit lane to serve this penalty. I'm sure James Sofronis has been told by the team that the car chasing him is due to serve one. Can't love having the pressure from a car that he knows isn't going to be there much longer. in a situation like this. There you see officially drive-through penalty, improper starting procedure. Now, I wonder how much he's going to lose, because they are 20 seconds, 2-0, up the road from Kyle Washington in third. Harwood is fourth. He's made his way around Surgent, by the way, so back ahead of the GT4 leader now. And that's a 25-second gap back behind these two.
He'll probably fall in there.
Somewhere a little bit behind them, I would think.
Yeah, it'll be at a 30, I would think about a 30-second time delta down pit lane here.
With time still to come back, and he's got the fastest race lap, does Brendan Uribe. 2:28 flat. That is 0.2 quicker than the best out of Safronis so far. So if he can keep this from getting to his head, there's still something you can salvage here. At least 2 positions you would think would be in play.
He'll keep pushing until they say you have to pit and serve that penalty, because right now he's got clean air, fast racetrack in front of him, and just try and gap those cars as much as he can so he doesn't lose so much track position when he comes back out. And then ideally he'll need some sort of full course yellow to try and get a bit of a reset, and then reduce that margin to James if he continues to lead.
We also have a penalty coming in for Charlie Luck, I believe. Stop and hold 30 seconds for causing a collision where the other car could not continue. That is assessed to the 45 car, which is indeed Charlie Luck. Charlie himself has already lost a lot of positions. So it pretty much just adds insult to injury at this point.
Not a good day for our championship leaders, right? In terms of the Masters class and also overall with George. Our GT4 leader, Rob Holland, coming in. Didn't qualify that well, but he's had a nice steady run here, up to 5th right now in class in GT4.
Rob is an American. He does have a lot of experience racing in the UK, British touring car experience, and then more recently a lot of racing at the Nürburgring. So I bet he's got some practice running around in the wet.
I'm sure he's pretty comfy out there.
Experience in this series as well, going back a number of years. Kyle Washington making his way around the Sean Quinlan car, being chased by Jason Harwood. So Washington in the white Porsche up ahead. Uribe has come out of the pits after serving the penalty. He is behind Harwood here, so I think that would slot him in 5th and ahead of Jason Daskalos. And that's what we're going to want to keep an eye on to see how he can recover from that drive-through penalty.
CHOUEST here is having a really nice run again with that Rentec operation. Had a podium earlier today, so they're having a big day.
Yep, that was in Pirelli GT4 America competition. And Jason Bell, I think you mentioned it earlier, but he's running up in 3rd. Another one of these drivers that's been at it for the last couple of years and really committed to learning the craft. And we've seen that start to pay dividends last year and carrying over into this year. Great to see him having a nice run.
Well, last year we had that insane schedule. We had the makeup races, so sometimes we had triple header weekends. He's doing 7-8 races on the same weekend, jumping between different cars. So they've settled his schedule down a little bit more manageable, I would think, for him.
Yeah, this is the Charlie Luck penalty we mentioned earlier. Stop and hold for causing that collision. Our points leader coming into the weekend, Charlie Luck, for Wright Motorsports in the Masters division. Right now, the Masters lead goes to the Flying Lizard Motorsports driver, Andy WILZOCH. Great to have Flying Lizard back in the paddock. It was strange not seeing them at Sonoma, especially considering that's the home track.
Right.
This is what we want to keep an eye on right here. Uribe on the comeback drive. He's got Harwood and Washington right in front of him. Both of those are for position.
This McLaren has been hooked up here today, and Brendan's done a really nice job. Only has a couple of seasons of racing under his belt. Very successful businessman, and has really dedicated himself to the next couple of years at least in terms of trying to get as much seat time as he possibly can, running globally in various championships. Is now committed to this championship for the remainder of the season. And they're just fun to see them. I mean, it's great to have another entry, but to have someone that's so competitive out of the box is really pretty awesome.
Well, this team has established itself as capable of running towards the front in very competitive GT series all around the world. Here comes Brendan up the inside of Harward, fading down a little bit in defense there. Reeb has to back out of it because he was down to that pit exit line, and you can't go crossing over that trying to make an overtake.
Tell you where the McLaren looks really strong is power down, traction coming off some of these lower speed corners that you have several of here at Circuit of the Americas. Just seems to really have the electronics worked out so you can just get the car straight and hammer it and put the power to the ground in these slippery conditions.
Looked like that battle had allowed Washington to drive away, but that was short-lived. Harward has run him down again. This is brightly colored car, a new team, SRO Motorsports out of Utah. They're running the same chassis this weekend in GT World Challenge America. Madison Snow, the co-driver for Jason.
Yeah, pretty cool team. It's led by Ty Isaac, who's kind of the team manager, and he knew Madison Snow, who's competing alongside Jason in World Challenger competition. But Ty is from Salt Lake City as well, and he used to be a speed skater right in this series called the Red Bull Crashed Ice, which was like almost a stadium-style racing. He showed me a video, 180,000 people at Minneapolis watching this incredible performance, and it's almost like roller derby on ice skates. And he used to work and run with the U.S. national team in World Cup competition. So there's always that racing in his veins from a young man, and said he just loves the passion of racing and very excited about this program.
And this team will be picking up a new chassis, or a new chassis to them at least. It's actually the car that's being run by TR3 this weekend. They will be getting a new chassis ahead of the VIR weekend, but that will allow them to have bespoke chassis for both GT America and GT World Challenge America. Here comes Reeb now, taking the long way around this triple apex right-hander modeled after a turn at Istanbul Park. Can he make it hang out there?
Look at the grip he's finding.
Wow.
Really tricky in these conditions for Jason there to even recognize that he's looking down to the inside. You have those rear view cameras inside the cockpit, but even so hard to see the cars in this mist and spray.
Oh, and Jason's trying to make a pass of his own to get around Kyle Washington, so he's got to have one eye out the front, one eye out the back, one eye out the side just in case, and I've already given him too many eyes.
Yeah, and ideally you want your crew chief kind of spotting for you from the monitors in terms of telling you where that competitor is around your flank when you can't quite see where they're making the move.
Does make you wonder how the professional racing driver does it. Calculate all these things, makes these decisions in a split second, monitor the various inputs that are coming in, have somebody talking to you on the radio. It's quite remarkable.
Tell you what I'm impressed with, and Jeff Ricker, who just won the TC race here just a short while ago, talking about the grip level at this racetrack, which surprises me. I haven't run here in the rain. And talking to some of the competitors who tested it, said it's like a skating rink. If you're on the racing line, it's diabolical. Well, we're not seeing a lot of mistakes, and we're seeing the grip levels from these cars, and the tire performance has been superb here today in terms of the racing. Not like they're just tiptoeing around. They're really giving it one.
Harward able to make that pass complete, and I think that opened the door for Reeb to make his way through as well. Did lose a little bit of time. We'll see how long it takes him to chase him down. That's the reaction from the Zalus team. Why shouldn't they be?
React on 13.
Just the second race weekend for this team. Made their debut at Sonoma. Jason Harward does not have a ton of experience himself, but I thought showed very well in his debut in GT America. Had a bit of a quiet race in GT World Challenge America earlier today in his debut in that series, but teamed up with Madison Snow, and Madison was quick in qualifying yesterday. It'll be interesting to see how they can run over the course of that 90-minute race, but his focus right now is on trying to build a gap and keep Brendan Reeb behind. This is second and third in the overall running order as it stands. It's still SURGENT over CHOUEST over Bell in GT4, and WILZOCH continues to lead the GT3 Masters category in 9th overall. Should update you as well on SCHMIDT in the TPC entered Lamborghini, running in GT2 trim, 18th overall. It probably has the toughest task of anyone in this field. All that horsepower, not much in the way of downforce, and not much in the way of driver range relative to what you see out of a GT3 car.
It's like trying to get a traction around this racetrack in these conditions. It's pretty amazing task. He's doing a great job just keeping it straight, I would think.
This is Sean Quinlan in the Cameron BMW. He's running all the way back in 21st, 12th in class. That was the pole sitter. So something went wrong early in their race, and haven't been able to put my finger on exactly what that was. And at the moment, about to risk going down a lap. Yeah.
He came into this race second in points after a pretty strong Sonoma weekend. So, as you say, he must have run afoul of something there in the early laps to be this far down the order.
CHOUEST in the Mercedes there, and Jason Bell has caught him. That is the Aston Martin white with blue trim.
Got to feel that Andrew Davis, his teammate in Sprint X competition, is on the radio talking him through this, just trying to keep him calm. Jason is a pretty excitable guy, but I think if you calm him down, he has the ability and the skills to really perform well. Just got to keep him in his zone. That's my feeling anyway.
It seems like Andrew Davis has been able to extract the most out of Jason since he came on board. Big slide there from CHOUEST, a bit more under control for Bell, but that was late in the year in 19. I think that Davis was hired to be Jason's coach and then co-drive at some races, and they've been a good partnership throughout the year last year and continuing here into 2021. And it's like, it's the steady hand on the tiller that Jason needs.
Well, you need that belief, and I think Jason's one of those guys that you have to prove it to him. And once you tick that box, then he's a believer and he'll listen. And you can't have a better tutor and coach in terms of Andrew Davis in this paddock.
Side by side here. So this is not for position. We've got GT4 car about to be lapped by the GT4 leader, and in front of them is the Masters class leader, WILZOCH, racing for Flying Lizard right here, Andy. Currently down the order a little bit, 7th in the overall order, but leading the Masters class. So first weekend for him with this back with this team.
Yeah, he's done a lot of races over the years with the Flying Lizard Group, so great to see him back with them. And talk about belief. I mean, they love Andy, and he loves that race team, and they're one of the best. I mean, Flying Lizard, what a resume they have. If you look at their history in the sport, even in endurance racing as well, let alone these sprint events.
It's been a decent recovery from Jason Daskalos. Remember, we saw his spin early in the race.
Too much
spins.
Yeah, just got a little bit wide there. Asked too much of the tire in the car there.
Through goes Daskalos. Washington in the Porsche, right behind, watching this happen right in front of him.
The stewards will just be okay with that one. Another split second. Immediately goes back on the attack. I love the confidence.
Totally
had a spin. Corner later, he's making passes.
Yeah, undaunted. Able to get that spot right back. I was going to mention that Daskalos had just made his way past Washington on the last lap. That was at the time for 4th overall. Now it is actually for 3rd. Let's take a look at the replay. What do you make of this?
Well, he just overcommits there, gets a little bit wide, then gets on the paint on the curb, and then as he's trying to turn the car, not enough grip to deal with that. But I love this. Okay, so he jumps out just in front and then goes on the attack immediately. Big smile on his face, probably. That's the nice thing about this racetrack. You can have some big ones here, as we've seen earlier today, but there's also, in 90% of the racetrack, you can have a spin like that, get away with it, and just continue with no damage to the race car.
He's been a human highlight reel throughout the day. That was true in GT World Challenge America, and he and Ollie Milroy put together quite a run to win on debut in that championship in that Pro-Am field. And we had the interview with Ollie after the race, and he said the same thing. To come out and win against this field is a remarkable accomplishment in their debut.
I think for Brendan, he's trying to find the limits, right? So he's fast-tracking his racing career, starting relatively late in life. But he's willing to take the risks, and he's putting in the time, trying to learn his craft as quickly as he can. And on a circuit like this, he's like, the result to him today may not matter that much. It's more importantly the speed that he can carry, the speed that he can find, and finding the limits in these conditions and putting that as a mental note in the back of your head.
I think looming in the back of that picture was Chris CAGNAZZI, and another Rintec entered GT4 Mercedes. I think it's that yellow car just a little bit further back, watching these two, trying to close in.
Yeah, that's him sharing the car in Sprint X competition with Guy Cosmo.
It's a deal that came together a little bit after the Sonoma round, but a couple guys that know each other from Ferrari Challenge competition. That is Chris's main background, and Guy Cosmo has a existing relationship, having driven for Rintec, partial season back in 2019. Everything just came together, and we understand they should be with us for most of the season this year. I think there's a wedding on the calendar that makes Watkins Glen an impossibility for Chris, but nevertheless, great to have that addition, and it's another guy making the step into Pro GT4 America from single-make racing, whether it's Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini. We've seen a number of drivers doing that, and it's the logical next step. The competition level is extremely tight, and if you have big-time aspirations, you want to get in that multi-class, multi-car kind of scenario to learn these lessons, and it's a great place to do it.
Yeah, it really is. And again, we talk about the team and the body of people that you surround yourself with. And with that Rintec group, they're top-notch. With Guy Cosmo, he has so much experience, so much speed still to showcase. It's just fun to watch all of these organizations develop, and names that we didn't know very well suddenly get into the sport and just really, really improve over a season or two. The improvement and the progress is quite remarkable.
Jason Bell falls into that category as a driver, as we've talked about, but I think he's being held up right now by Ross CHOUEST in the battle for second in the GT4 class, and CAGNAZZI is getting there. He's getting closer by the lap.
Just have a quick look at their times here. Yeah, I mean, CAGNAZZI was a little bit quicker, almost a second quicker than these two on that previous lap, so he is honing in on them.
Is that CHOUEST being defensive, or is he seeking out some puddles for the tires? It doesn't seem like the rain is as intense as it once was.
Well, I'm very curious to learn and see where everyone's finding the grip. Sometimes on a racetrack, if we talk about the polished racing line, the brake zone typically is far right because you're trying to maximize the radius through that upcoming turn 12. So sometimes braking in the middle of the road on certain straightaways, certain approaches to the corners, in the wet is the best way to go. There's more grip there. You can hammer the brake pedal a little bit harder, get the retardation, get the grip. So I think it was more that. I don't think right now, with the amount of water we have on this racetrack, cooling the tires down, which we typically see in a drying race condition, would be a big factor right now.
Saw Jason Daskalos running just ahead of this car, Brendan Reed. That is third in the overall running order right now. Daskalos has it, and that would be the best result of the season. Not classified in race 1 at Sonoma, finished 4th in race 2. Get that breakthrough podium, but he's going to have to hold off this McLaren to do it.
Yeah, and I think the McLaren has a little bit more pace.
It's Jeff Burton with the spin there, Reardon Racing car. He was down in 17th overall, 3rd in the Masters class. Let's see what happened to Jeff.
Just rolls a lot of speed through here. Just touches the painted curb there, and that's the problem when you got the loaded tire out there and you're looking for that grip to accelerate off the corner. It's just taking away a percentage of grip that you're used to. So it's the fine margins there. Just a couple of inches further to the right, he would have probably been fine.
Interesting note that I picked up this weekend, because Cota is an FIA Grade 1 rated track, all of the curbs are painted with a special tacky paint. It's supposed to have more grip to it than a traditional paint would, but I think in conditions like these, I'm not sure how much of a boost it makes, but that is part of the requirement to being a Grade 1 facility, I learned, which I thought was quite interesting. Tim Pappas in the Black Swan Porsche leading. Second car through, that's the 120. Adam Adelson. Pappas must have just made that pass because they were running in the reverse order the last time by the start-finish line. And this is how he did it.
The brake zone goes to the outside, cuts across. It's tight there going through turn 1, but he makes the move. That was nice racing. And then really tight there on the acceleration run down to 2. Tim making a big recovery, had that massive shunt at Bathurst early last year. That was a nasty one, but has deterred him. Great to see him back. Not sure he's going to be competing there again, supposedly, but
I think that's the one place he's written off. Maybe a deal with the family is my understanding of how that played out. But yeah, like you said, suffered some major injuries at Bathurst and a crash at the Chase, one of the most high commitment corners you'll find anywhere in the world of motorsports, certainly in road racing.
He was struggling with a broken leg, and it wasn't until he was able to actually put any weight on his foot he discovered much later that he had a broken foot as well. So I'm not sure how they missed that with the x-ray, but
here's a battle. Jason Bell on the attack. Ross CHOUEST has been holding off his challenges. This is as close as we've seen Jason. CHOUEST now covering the inside. Jason going to try around the outside. We know it can be done. Tim PAPPAS just showed us that. What can he do here under braking?
quite close enough, and I don't think he's going to be close enough to get alongside him accelerating off turn one. So just making some notes right now. He's got 11 minutes left to work with, trying to make that extra step up.
And CAGNAZZI getting ever closer. That little head-to-head battle.
Well, that may put the pressure on. Andrew Davis and the team will certainly be telling him that.
As that yellow Mercedes gets closer, the willingness to be patient if you're Jason Bell goes out the window, right?
Has to, because you know, you don't want to suddenly fall off the podium completely. So if you want it, Jason, you might just have to settle. You've got to be second, or you might end up fourth unless you put the pressure on here.
Jason Dascalos has been flying. His last lap was the best lap of anyone so far in this race. A 2:24.414. That was 2 seconds faster than James Safronis, who admittedly has a big lead and is probably not pushing things. Jason Harward was about 0.6 of a second slower than Dascalos. And more crucially, perhaps, is that he was able to build a bit more of a gap over Brendan Uribe, who is running right behind him. Still turning some impressive lap times there, though. And in fact, on this last lap, Uribe was able to claw a little bit back into it. But Dascalos recovering nicely from a spin of his own earlier. And like I said, late in the afternoon yesterday, they had a lot of parts and pieces lying on the ground beside that race car. I was not able to figure out exactly what the issue was, but whatever it is, that team's put it back together.
Yeah, he's got the hammer down. He ran 2 events, 4 races last year in the GT Sports Club, and had 4 wins in the GT3 category. Great history of World Challenge, ran with the Vipers and Nissans with the CRP team way back when. So great to see him back, and great to see that this new class is really allowing a place for guys like Jason to come back to.
And he's doing it with an older generation Audi GT3 car. And that's one of the things that makes this series appealing to someone like Jason. He's got this car in his possession. Just wasn't anywhere to go racing, really, at least not at a super high competitive level. And this opened the door for him to do that. We saw him do that with GT Sports Club last year. Those races mixed in with GT World Challenge America. But this seems to be a bit more neat of a solution to where do you put those older GT3 cars? Where do you put the GT2 cars when they start to come in greater numbers? And finding a place to have a single driver GT4 format as well. There's a lot to like about what they've put together here with GT America. I said it earlier, it's a throwback to the old school Pirelli World Challenge single driver sprint format. And if you go back, you know, you used to run GT-GTS together as well, and we have some of that with GT3 and GT4.
All we need is standing starts.
Oh.
Back to where we started, right?
We are. That would be exciting.
Tell you what, though, this Lamborghini has been the star of the show here today. Safronis really, as you would expect with his experience, just picked up where he left off before. Won here just a year ago with Jerome Bleekemolen in the GT3 car, so he knows the circuit well. Car looks superb, probably one of the neatest color schemes I've seen on a Lamborghini Huracan. And remarkably, I think recently they announced they've sold 400 of this Huracan models over the years now, so what a fantastic race car it is.
And this particular chassis has an interesting provenance. They got it from the Orange One FFF racing team, which has been so successful in GT World Challenge Europe and other series as well. In fact, I believe this car won the Road to Le Mans race that is held right before the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and it's a rotating brand, basically. So 1 year it's Lamborghini, 1 year it's Aston Martin, things like that. And he raced in that, that car raced in that race and was a winner there. It's had some good results in other championships and has now fallen into GMG Racing's hands and might be on its way to another win.
Yeah, for sure. And who's on the march now is Arib again. He's fourth on the road, just laid down his personal best lap of 24.4, which was a lot quicker than the guys ahead of him. So he's got about 6 minutes to work with here.
Daskelos, since setting the race's fastest lap, has been struggling for pace a little bit. He's ran a 2:26 flat compared to a 2:24.4 for Daskelos. So it's really interesting that he's been able to.
He's right there.
Yeah, he's closing in.
It's the last car on the sharp tails away heading out of turn 11 is Arib.
Flip those numbers. It should have been the 2:24.4 for Arib, Daskelos with the 2:26 flat, and that's allowed that McLaren to close in, and it's right there in the shot, and they're both chasing Jason Harwood, who's at the front of this picture. So if these trends continue as they make their way past the lap car of Jeff Burton, we might have 3 cars fighting it out for second, third, and fourth overall.
Well, a bit like that GT4 podium, right? It's
yeah.
Got 3 cars battling out for the final 2 spots on the podium.
I should update you. It is Surgent by 8 seconds over CHOUEST. Bell runs third, but only a quarter of a second behind CHOUEST, and CAGNAZZI still hovering about 1.7 seconds behind, keeping his eye on that battle, trying to find a way to get there amongst it. Here's Arib, though. He has caught Daskelos. You can see the comparison of their 2 best lap times, and they are close. So Arib very close to the ultimate pace that we've seen in this race.
Yeah, but as that last lap, it was really the telling tale there in terms of a second and a half quicker than Daskelos. So Daskelos needs to regroup here, look ahead, focus forward, try and chase down Harwood, and at the same time try and ignore that menacing McLaren in his rear view camera.
Easier said than done. Let's see these lap times. This time by Daskelos responds with a 2:24.2, but Arib with the new fastest lap of the race, 2:24 flat, closes in 0.2 of a second in setting the fastest lap of the race. So credit to Daskelos, he was able to respond in a big way.
A little bit of traffic up ahead right now. That's a problem for Jason. Daskelos, that is.
Right,
two Jasons running together.
And the GMG Racing Audis a little bit further down the order. Elias Sabo, I think. Is that Alex Welch?
That's Sabo.
Yeah, it must be, because Welch has run with GMG, but is not this year. It's a new team for him. Did hold up Daskelos just that little bit, but Arib was not able to take advantage.
Big twitch there. Just caught the curbing on the inside of turn 10. Arib did there and nearly turned him sideways, hangs on to it. He's not intimidated. He's just grabbing this McLaren by the scruff of the neck and wringing it.
He was facing the wrong way about 10 minutes ago, and we saw with the rejoin, immediately was right back in the fight. He is not one to be deterred. This is where we've seen CHOUEST either defending or seeking out the grip in the braking zone, maybe a little bit of both. Crossover, though, here for Jason Bell, fighting here for a podium spot.
These 2 cars will be pretty evenly matched in the straightaway stakes here, but Jason has that inside line now. He's just got to take it in there deep. And just hold him. Get alongside and just hold him out there, but CHOUEST a bit later on the brakes and can get the car to the apex. That's impressive.
With the great rearguard action there by Ross CHOUEST, keeping Jason Bell in check. This is the leader in GT4, Surgent.
This is a bit of a surprise. Great run here today for Thomas.
Prive Motorsports Top Racing is the entrant. And you mentioned it, the McLaren seems well suited to running in adverse conditions.
Looking at their sponsor, it looks like they'll have a party tonight.
Find a way to get invited.
I don't mind a margarita, let's put it that way.
Well, Surgent has been nearly picture perfect. He drove to the front early on and has just been plugging away. This is Charlie Luck on a comeback drive of his own. Remember, he had that stop and hold penalty. He was well down the order and has recovered nicely. Now running second in Masters. This would be for 7th overall. I don't think he's going to have enough time to run down WILZOCH, who's the leader in Masters, but damage control Well, that's mission accomplished if you're Charlie Luck.
Yeah, and his fastest lap is some 4/10 quicker than our current overall leader, James Safronis, so that puts it all into perspective in terms of the pace that he's had.
This is the Masters leader, WILZOCH. Charlie Luck has a long racing history going back to the 80s, where he did some NASCAR, what was then Busch Series racing, for a number of years. Never a full season, but had some decent results. And sees this Masters category as a great opportunity to get in. It's worth noting the differentiation there. It's for drivers 55 years and older.
Oh, that's too bad.
Is your racing license up to date, Cal? But he was excellent at Sonoma, and that is carried over. There was the contact with George Kurtz, and that's what he got the penalty for. And I'm sure George is not thrilled about that. That knocked him out of the race, the overall winner in both races at Sonoma. But since then, Charlie Luck has done everything he's needed to do to try and salvage what was shaping up to be a very difficult day.
Reeb very late on the brakes there. I'm sure the ABS was kicking in, just had to take it straight for a moment and then get back on with the program, but lost a couple of car lengths there in that maneuver going through the brake zone for turn 12.
Overall leader James Safronis. You know, he's not run a full season in a couple of years. He pops in and out when he feels like it, when he likes the track, when he's got an interesting car or a driver he wants to drive with, the white flag displayed for him right there. He knows how to pick his shots because his winning percentage over the last couple of years has been extraordinarily good.
It really has. Went through a bit of a lean spell in terms of championships and then went on a bit of a tear in the last decade at least. So pretty cool to see white flag flying for this battle here. Reeb has dropped back a little bit from Daskalos, and Harwood's just continued with the program. He's not under threat right now as we enter the final lap.
It's been impressive from Harwood and Daskalos both responding to the pressure. We saw Harwood closing up on or having Daskalos close up on him, and he did not falter. Oh boy, is that our leader in GT4? A big fire at the back of that McLaren. I think it was Surgent. This race went one lap too long for the McLaren. It is stuck on the side of the road. Oh, wow. That is heartbreaking. He had run a perfect race. And full course yellow comes out. Car in a dangerous spot, especially with the driver out of the car. That makes it an easy choice there. So that's going to lock
Reeb
in.
has gotten around Daskalos here, I think.
Ooh, you're right, he has. But did he do it before the full course yellow?
Yeah. And there's the stricken car there coming through turn 10. So that's going to be the question, whether Daskalos just got out of it when he got the message.
Yes. Well, the stewards will review that for sure. But as it stands, if he got it done, Reeb will steal a spot on the overall podium, courtesy of a pass at the very last moment. James Safronis will pick up the win here in GT America, powered by AWS. Jason Harwood second. He believe Reeb around Daskalos for third. Masters win.
There goes Daskalos. Yeah, there he goes.
Yep.
He's really taken the position back, so it must have been after the yellow was out.
That does stand to reason. Okay, so Masters win to WILZOCH. Luck comes home in second. Ross CHOUEST and Jason Bell elevated to first and second in GT4. Chris CAGNAZZI, very impressive as well, gets up into third, completing the GT4 class podium. Third in the Masters category is Jeff Burton, who had a trouble-filled afternoon, unfortunately. It will finish 19th overall, but still does pick up the podium finish in the Masters category. So there's the finish. James Safronis brings it home, picks up another win at Circuit of the Americas and in SRO competition. A long-time competitor and one of the busiest men here on site when you factor in the amount of cars that GMG runs on a given weekend. Just adds another feather to the cap.
Yeah, he seems to handle all of that very well, doesn't he, in terms of keeping his clients and his customers happy. And he'll always state now, at this stage of his career, they come first. If I have to sit out the race to make sure that everyone's taken care of, I would do that. So the racing's more of a fun thing now. If there's time and it's the right moment and it's not compromising his service to his team, then he's willing to do that.
Well, keep in mind, he had fairly major shoulder surgery in the offseason and had not been back in a car until very recently. Had not raced since that surgery. And admitted it's not still super comfortable just yet. One of the reasons that we're seeing that car in GT America, I understand, is they were exploring possibly running a GT World Challenge America, but the driver change was going to be a real discomfort for him with the recovery from that shoulder surgery. So there is a possibility we could see that a little bit down the road.
I'm concerned with him lifting that trophy this afternoon as well.
I think he can do it with the other arm. He's a strong guy. And he's got some practice with it, too. But congratulations to him. And that's a win with another manufacturer for him. He's run a lot with Porsche over the years, a lot with Audi. In recent years, GMG, his company, has been involved in Lamborghini Super Trofeo racing. And that's another manufacturer that they are building that relationship with, and a big new facility planned at the Thermal Club as well, coming for GMG here in the near future, I understand. So
that makes total sense.
Well,
as much business and track days as they do there.
Exactly right. So big things in the future for both James Safronis and GMG. This is your top three. As it turned out, you got a feel for Surgent because he really drove a great race. But Ross CHOUEST, that's why you fight that hard for second place. You never know.
That's right.
When it could become first place. And he held off Jason Bell. Great result for Jason, too. And Chris CAGNAZZI right behind. So a 1-3 finish for Rentec.
Big day for them. Wow. Very impressive. Nice job for that team. We have some quality teams and drivers in this paddock right now. It's just amazing.
That is one thing you notice walking around earlier in the weekend. The presentation is very good. Everything is very well polished and well maintained. It's big teams with experience.
I think that also credit to the manufacturers and the latest technology and the turnkey cars that they turn out. I mean, they look right, they fit right, they're reliable, and it just puts on a great show.
Yep, that's what we've seen so far this season. 3 races in for GT America, powered by AWS, and just the second different overall winner through 3 races that we've had after George Kurtz swept Sonoma. James Safronis, in his debut in the championship, gets the win in race number 1. Jason Harwood, a podium finish there. So Lamborghini 1-2. Then Jason Dascalos in the older generation Audi. Brendan Uribe will be ruining that spin, as well as the spin on the formation lap. He had an eventful afternoon and still comes home in 4th and had a shot at the podium until that last full course yellow.
Had fastest lap, so it was all there for the taking.
Be really curious to see what he can do tomorrow, with the caveat being we expect, keyword expect, it to be dry.
And he'll have the pole with the fast lap of the day.
That's right. That's right. And he might very well have Dascalos right next to him. That lap time from Dascalos did hold up quite nicely. Looks like that was the second fastest lap.
There's Harwood celebrating with the team.
And that Zelus team is a colorful operation. Look at even the shoes on the crew members. Look at the shoelaces there. They're brightly colored as well. I can't wait to see what Jason can do this season in GT World Challenge America paired up with Madison Snow. I think as he gets more and more comfortable in a GT3 car, that's going to be an excellent pairing. Let's go down to pit lane. Amanda has found one of our race winners.
Oh, and I think you guys can hear the cheers over the wall. And James, you put your vocal support around the GT America Series. GMG fields 5 cars in this class. Your first win since you returned from soldier surgery. Did you miss this feeling?
Well, I've been in the SRO World Challenge Series since '94, so it was going to take a lot to get me out. And I got to thank Dr. Raphael Williams. He's the one who fixed the shoulder, did a total replacement, and said, I give you 5 months and get back in the car. And I said, let's make it 3, because I knew we had Cota here. lots of support, lots of fans. The GMG team's amazing. I mean, 35 crew guys, 50 guests. Joe and the whole crew put it all together. And for me, this was my little reprieve to just do a little driving and have some fun with my guys. And I'm always on the radio checking in with the rest of the guys, doing. So I'm glad Jason Bell did well and Kyle was up there. So for me, it feels good to be back. And it'll take a lot more than a shoulder to get me out. Plus, my wife here has been amazing. Nargis, thank you, love.
Congratulations, James.
All right, thanks.
He was going to retire a couple of years ago. That didn't last. And why would he? He's still at the top of his game.
And I think he's found the sweet spot. Such a successful business with GMG, what they do with their aftermarket stuff, and his race team is superb. And it's kind of a nice caveat. He's focused on the business side now, and now, like you said, this is a nice reprieve. Come out, enjoy what I love to do. Passion is still there. And
the two feed into each other. The racing really helps fuel the aftermarket parts business, and it's been that way since the beginning.
Yeah, and I think when you've got customers who have those high-end machines and they're suddenly curious about the race shop and what are you doing, and the thermal club and doing some lapping days, it's a natural, almost like feeder system.
Well, I got to think as a salesperson, right? If you're trying to pitch your aftermarket parts and you could say, by the way, I'm a race-winning race car driver myself, doesn't that give you just that little bit more credibility?
Is that how you sell yourself, Ryan?
No.
Indianapolis winner?
I don't think anybody cares about that.
Track record holder at
Except
Gateway
for you.
until today.
Until today. Until today. Yeah, that's long gone. Let's go down to Amanda. More information from the pits and another one of our happy race winners.
Oh, and making the debut here in the Super Trofeo, Scott Schmidt takes it for the GT2. What do you make of this race today with the rain, not the rain? What was your experience like?
It was a great race. We started out with heavy water and had to change our line all the way through. It started clearing up and track became very fast and exciting. It was a great race and a great debut.
Congratulations, Scott.
Yes, appreciate it.
Hope we see more of Scott Schmidt and the TPC racing team. As mentioned, he comes from Lamborghini Super Trofeo. They'll have a race here in conjunction with NASCAR, actually.
Oh, cool.
Later on this year, and he saw this as a chance. Yeah, you got to modify the car a little to put it in GT2 spec, but let's learn the track. Let's get some laps, especially in the rain. Who knows if it rains that weekend? That could really be beneficial. And hopefully he had a great experience, and will tell some of his compatriots about it, and we'll see more. That's a good-looking race car, I have to say.
And it is, and really hats off to him. I mean, it's a tough one. It doesn't have a lot of downforce compared to this GT4 and GT3 machinery. It has a ton of horsepower, so to wrestle that around this racetrack and survive was really a great result in itself.
No question about that. Definitely a real test. And I think you might have a bit more fun tomorrow in the dry. That's where those GT2 cars will thrive, with that just gobs of horsepower that they have under the right foot.
Yeah, it's a rocket ship, literally. And you just want to get the wheels straight before you light the torch.
It's an interesting concept, relatively new, just I think the second year of competition, at least stateside, for the GT2 platform. But the idea was to be able to bring some of the joy back into driving with the high horsepower cars, and that's exactly what we've done. I think there's some joy on the face of Ross CHOUEST under that mask. What say you, Amanda?
Oh, Ryan, and Ross picks up his first win in SRO America. And when you saw the McLaren pull off there on the side, how good was that feeling for you?
It was amazing. Today was a bit like a roller coaster, a lot of ups and downs. In the race earlier today with my co-driver Aaron Pavlito, we picked up 16 spots and came back and picked up a podium. And now my first win in SRO. The guys at Rintech and AMG just did a great job. They gave me a great car today.
Well earned. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Ross, a former champion in both Lamborghini Super Trofeo and Ferrari Challenge competition, making that step up. Finished 9th and 11th in the first two races of the season at Sonoma, and does considerably better than that here with his first win just a few moments ago. Congratulations to all of the class winners, and can't wait to see what Race 2 has in store for us from Circuit of the Americas tomorrow.